Dum 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 dum. Super lame. Okay, so probably should make it clear that this is actually the second time we're doing this.
Here we are again.
You can tell we were in such unison there. We shot with the set and everything was looking great. We had these great angles and everything, but our mics sounded like.
Yeah, there were some audio technical difficulties. So if our voices are raw, for one thing, that's because this is the second time we're doing this.
So, and usually
we were pretty animated in that first
Yeah, so usually we just go back, whatever, we'll just shoot the next day, but everyone is like, Man of Steel, talking about Man of Steel, so we gotta just give it to you, man. So, yeah, so, I am General Zod.
And I am Jimmy Olsen, strangely not appearing in this movie.
I think you were the bald guy. I was hitting on everybody.
Was that supposed to be Jimmy? That's creepy.
I don't know. They didn't use me as Zod, so. But regardless, this is sibling rivalry. No! Patrick Harris was not in this.
My father believed if the world found out who I really was, they'd reject me. What do you think?
Superman Begins, Man of Steel is the retelling of one of the most famous superheroes of all time, Superman. And much like in the Superman story, a lot of it is very much the same. Superman is an alien from another planet, and he is the last of his kind. He's sent to Earth to live among the humans, is raised as human, but of course he's not human. Being here gives him unbelievable powers. He can shoot lasers from his eyes, he has unbelievable strength, and of course he can fly. But bad news comes in the form of General Zod, who informs him that he is not alone, and that actually he has an army of Kryptonians who are looking to kick his ass and take over Earth for their own evil, diabolical needs. Man of Steel seems to very much like to talk about the idea of Superman, but not Superman himself. Watching this movie seems more like a thesis about a film that you're never allowed to see. The dialogue is constant speech after speech after speech about what it means to be Superman, but there's a big difference between speeches and dialogue. Because of this, the actors in this movie, who have all given a good performance at least one point in their career, are bland and forgettable, but you can't blame them for that. The script gives them nothing to work with, just speech after speech after speech. But Superman doesn't even listen to half of the speeches being made, as it seems he sort of makes up his own rules. He spends less time trying to actually look after the people of Metropolis, and instead destroy Metropolis for cool action scenes. The action scenes are cool, and the camera isn't shaking so much that you can see them. For a character who's supposed to represent the heart of the American superhero, I was really shocked at how incredibly heartless this was. There was no personality to these characters. They were all so bland and forgettable, when they are usually so distinct and memorable. If you want a version of the Superman story that has much more heart and much more character and much more thought, I would say go to the original Richard Donner version. Or, if you want to go for a reboot that's much more effective, I would say go to the Saturday morning cartoon done by the same people who did Batman, the animated series. In that hour-and-a-half pilot, they got more thought and more heart in it than anything in this film. And if an hour-and-a-half Saturday morning cartoon, with the limitations of an hour-and-a-half morning cartoon, can get closer to the heart of what Superman is than a 3-hour movie that had almost no limitation on its budget, I think the problem is that the filmmakers in this movie have to go watch more Saturday morning cartoons. Rob.
Needs more Otisburg. There was a distinct lack of Otisburg in this movie.
That's what was obviously missing.
Yeah, it's obvious.
Otis could have pulled it all together. Oh, come on, Mr. Luthor, you got everything.
Otisburg. We had a bet going into this. Who was going to be the most bland actor? I had gone with Russell Crowe.
I actually stood up for him.
Yes, I went with Russell Crowe, fresh off of Les Miserables.
But you can't beat the blandness of the Costner.
Yeah,
I said
you
Costner
went with
was
Kevin Costner, and I was just like, when it was all said and done, I
coughed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no contest. Russell Crowe, as bland as he was still not as bad as Kevin Costner. So thank you so much, sir.
That being said, both Amy Adams and Michael Shannon were even blander than Kevin Costner and Russell Crowe. So I consider it a draw.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
And that was a refreshing surprise. Thank you for that movie, because I would not have guessed.
Probably
that
the only
Michael,
surprise in this movie.
That was the only surprise in this movie. I would not have guessed that Michael Shannon and Amy Adams would have been the most boring performance in this film. I'm gonna say this first, because this has been. I'm gonna go. This gonna be rant. I am going on a rant. Because this has been bothering me. I've seen every Nolan fanboy come out of the woodwork and go on where if you criticize this movie, all of a sudden it's, you don't get it. You're just an evil critic. You snooty bastards in your ivory towers wouldn't know a good movie. This is the people's movie.
We have ivory towers?
Yeah, I wish.
Awesome.
I was like,
where's my... I didn't know that.
yeah, and it's just like, critics just don't understand. They've always hated Nolan. I love this. When has Christopher Nolan become an underdog? Christopher Nolan is a director who has made... how many projects now? 8, 9, 10 movies in a row that have been universally loved by critics. The lowest scoring one, I think, on Rotten Tomatoes is 76% maybe. I think The Prestige may be the lowest. He is a media and critical darling. Every critic out there loves this guy, but now all of a sudden, because they want to criticize Man of Steel, you people just hate Nolan! The critics hate Nolan! I'm like, every critic loves Christopher Nolan.
Well,
so
obviously, he figured that out and saw there were only 5 critics who didn't like The Dark Knight, so he said, oh, okay, I have to tell this story over and over and over, even if it's a story that has nothing to do with The Dark Knight.
And this is a problem. So going in this now, I'm going to say in the comments section, if you try to give me the, you're just a critic, you don't get it, oh, well, you just don't like Christopher Nolan, I will defend Dark Knight to my dying day as a great movie. So when I say I don't like Man of Steel, don't bother coming back with that BS excuse. Just don't even bother.
Where's the microphone, man? Where's the boom?
Yeah. Don't give me that, because I like Christopher Nolan. I like a lot of what he did in the Batman trilogy, so don't. That being said,
didn't this suck?
Yeah. This is a pretty bad movie.
Well, what you were going into with Christopher Nolan, I might as well talk about because you've gone into such great detail, and I tend to agree. I think since Dark Knight Rises, he's tried to recreate the Batman Begins and Dark Knight feel just constantly in places where it's not needed. And what fascinated me is that I like Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder, and what I like about them is that they constantly come at ideas, at stories from different angles and different ideas. You think of Memento, you think of 300.
And they're true to their vision. In this film, there is no vision. It's like whatever Snyder was is gone, and whatever pure vision Nolan had, it's this weird mix. It's like Snyder's been nullified.
Nolan-ified.
Yeah, he's been Nolan-ified. So all of the things that made 300 and Watchmen at least very entertaining to watch, the bright colors, you know, the action, that sort of vision that Snyder has, love it or hate it, completely gone in this movie. Just
place with shaky cam.
Yeah, tripods, invest jagoffs. Seriously, I get if you want to make it realistic by putting some shaky cam.
But the flying scenes when it's shaking, that works.
I didn't mind that. I'm like, okay, you're trying to get a more realistic feel. Abrams will sometimes do the same thing. There was a scene in the intro of this film where Zod walks in and he's talking to some ridiculously costumed senators from Krypton, and this old lady's sitting there just like this, and I swear to God, she's just... because the camera's... And I'm like, these two are talking. Why are you shaking the camera? This makes no sense. And the entire movie is shot this way. It's some of the... I thought Les Miserables may have set the standard for obnoxious cinematography.
Or Hunger Games.
Yeah, or Hunger Games. Like, both of those had really obnoxious cinematography. This blows those two out of the water. I will give this movie credit. It added one new element that I thought was pretty good, and that was the concept that his superpowers have messed him up because he has X-ray vision. There's a great scene in school. And there's a brilliant scene with his mother, who's the only useful woman in this film, and she does one thing, and it's this one scene. Otherwise, women have just been written out of this movie.
No, come on, the Ursa chick was cool.
No, okay, the Ursa chick is cool, but there's nothing, I mean, there's nothing there. Her only goal is to kick Superman's ass. I mean, let me ask you this, and this is another problem. You know, apart from the mother who says, listen to my voice, focus on me, you know, and you'll be able to get through this. We'll work through your powers in the way they're driving you nuts, because it basically makes Superman kind of schizophrenic, because he's seeing, hearing all of these things with his powers. Brilliant scene, absolutely brilliant. The only new thing added to this, you know, mythos that I really liked apart from that, what does Lois do? What do you need Lois for?
Oh, I agree. Oh, honestly, I don't think it's even Lois. I think it's half the characters.
Yeah, you could have written her out of this movie and you would have lost not a thing. In fact, at the very end, when she at the very end, she shows up on an airplane as a part of a secret mission and
to push a button.
Yeah, to push a button that you could have told anybody how to do that, and she couldn't even do that right.
What Batman Begins did that this movie did not, and this I think is one of the major slip-ups. When Batman Begins starts, he has flashbacks to his childhood, but the flashbacks are told in order. You see him discover the cave, you see him interact with the parents, you see the parents die, and then you cut back to the present day. That's what you do. This, as soon as he lands on the planet, he's a fisherman. Then he's 12 years old. Then he's a teenager. Then he's a child again. But something like Batman Begins pulls it off because it told the flashbacks in order, so you see the progression, you see the character grow. This is so out of order, you can never connect with this character.
Well, and the way it's edited together, there's this trick, which is slow moment, flashbang, with these little tease action scenes. Where
Every time they're starting to develop character, oh, tornado, oh, bus,
a tornado,
explosion,
and it's always like this little moment that just lasts all of 10 seconds, and then what do we get after that? I'm mopey again. I'm sad.
And here's the thing that I think a lot of people overlook is when you look at the Richard Donner film, a lot of people like to say, oh, that film is corny. It's a corny movie, and it is. But I think people mistake that corny, and upbeat and colorful does not carry weight and is not heavy and is not dramatic. And if you watch that film, if you watch pretty much the exact same amount of time that they have to get Superman off Krypton to the planet, the father played by Brando has to say goodbye to his son, has to say that the planet's going to explode, has to say that he's going to not tell anybody, but still allow this to happen. He has to make the sacrifice. You feel so much for there. Everything is there that needs to be there for the drama of Superman, and it is so well done, and it is corny, it is upbeat, but that does not mean it has to be super dark in order to get drama. Drama can exist anywhere.
When
it does not have to be dark.
Done, the original Donner Superman was a film that had adult themes but was aimed at the entire family in most respects. This film is aimed at 14-year-olds.
It's aimed at the Transformer crowd.
Yeah, it's literally aimed at the Transformer crowd. And, I mean, the thing is, the only response I'm seeing from people is, well, I liked it. Like, okay, I like David Lynch's Dune. I like Batman Returns. I'm not defending them as great movies. It's just not going to happen. We all have our guilty pleasures, and if you like it, that's fine, but it's the way the Nolan fanboys have come out of the woodwork to say that, this is one of the greats. I mean, I'm just going to ask you straight up, this movie is the one you're going to rally around. We had Dark Knight, we've got the Avengers, this is the one that you feel the need to go, how dare you not like Man of Steel? This is fucking Superman. No, really, when it comes down to it, America has two mythologies. Two. Because Batman's not a mythology, he's pretty human. Two mythologies, Superman and Star Wars. This is the closest thing to an American mythology we have. If there is one thing that...
the Incredible Kazoo from Flintstones? Come on!
Yeah, I mean, if there is one thing on the planet that if you're given $250 million, the guy who gave you The Dark Knight, the same screenwriters, all of this pedigree that you cannot mess up, that you do not want to settle for sloppy seconds for, it is Superman. And when it's all said and done, it's just another superhero movie.
Red Letter Media, they talk about why the prequels to Star Wars did not work and how you could analyze, you could say in just a few words, what the characters in the original Star Wars films were like, and you can't do that with the prequels. I will say that here, just because they are identifiable names from characters you do remember, none of those characteristics carry over here. If I was to see this knowing nothing about these characters in other medias, I would know nothing about Lois, I would know nothing about Superman, I would know nothing about...
I would know just as much about Zod that he says about himself.
Yeah, or Zod, or the Fire, or any of these people. There are no characteristics of these people. Superman is a symbol, so let's try as hard as we can to tell the story of a symbol and not the story of a character. We're looking at speeches about characters, not characters themselves.
Yeah, and you just cannot replace the two. Yeah.
There it is, man. I hope we successfully pissed most of you off. And if you want to hear us go into even more detailed pitching and voting...
I love The Dark Knight. I love Nolan. I like Snyder's films. I did not like this movie.
And if you want to hear us go into even more detail, even though this is probably more than you need, but if you want us to talk about the spoilers in the film, just go below to Spoiler Corner and we will talk more about that. Until then, I am General Zod.
I'm tired.
Me!